Hello, welcome to my channel. I am Jeanette. I am the Project Junkie. Thank you to all of the new subscribers. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. I've got a new and exciting item for you today. I'm always on the lookout for something new for the young kids because, you know, I'm all about the kids. I want something anywhere from that $10 to $20 price range. I want to keep things as adorable and cute as I can possibly get them because we all know that's what sells in our booths. The cuter something is, because let's just face it, crochet is not an essential item. It is something that has to appeal to the I want this, I'm going to make this, I'm going to buy this. And of course we all hope that they will buy it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But here's what we're making. Sports cars. I love the sports cars, and you can collect them. Everybody needs more than one car. They don't take a lot of time, about an hour, a little bit more. Look how cute they are. You put little eyes on them. You could even put eyes on the headlights. That would look really cute. I use blanket yarn, so they go really quickly. You can use the posh yarn, that's a little bit smaller. Takes a few more rows, a little bit more time. It's very easy sewing. Sew the little headlights on, a little bit of accent color. I know a lot of you don't like to sew, but it does make a difference on your amigurumi. Today we're making the little gray Porsche, but they're just so cute. I do not use safety eyes. I want them soft and fluffy. I don't want any choke hazards on them for the young boys or the young children. It doesn't even have to be boys, but I wanted something that would appeal to them as they walked by my booth. And you can just tone it down a little bit and make little tiny cars. Aren't they so cute? I'm still working on the truck idea, but they're so cute. Let's get into the video. For today's tutorial, you will need a little bit of stuffing. You will need a pair of scissors, a darning needle, a pair of tweezers of some kind. You will need a 6mm crochet hook and a 4mm crochet hook. You will need the color that you're going to make your car out of, and I am using the loops and threads, mostly not because this is such a great color, but so you can see the stitches on the video. But it will make a really cool car. You will also need, this is posh yarn from Joann's, and this is black, and this is the white from Joann's. You'll need a little bit of red, and this is chenille yarn from Temu, and this is a little bit of bright yellow. Chenille yarn is also from Temu. You may want a stitch marker, but it's fairly easy, so I'm not going to use those today. We're going to start off making the tires, and this is the posh yarn. I'm using the 4mm hook. You start with a magic ring, and you're going to put 10 single crochet into the magic ring. Okay, when you're done with that, close that up, join it with a slip stitch like this, chain 1, and then 2 single crochets in each stitch. So an increase in each stitch. You'll have 20 stitches when you get finished with this round. When you come up to the edge, join it with a slip stitch and finish off, and leave a fairly decent tail
so you can sew it on. Then you will need a little bit of white. And this is just for an accent color for the wheel. And I'm just going to bring this up around, right up under that last row right there. And you can use a darning needle for this, it's fine. And this is just going to make the accent on the tire. You don't have to add these accents, and you can do them different than this. I just thought it looked neat. Make a little star shape. And there is your wheel. And you will need to make 4 of these for your tires. And you can set this aside, and we will move along to the headlights. Still using your 4mm hook and the white Posh. You're going to start with magic circle and put 8 single crochets into the magic circle. Hook that together with a slip stitch. Finish off, leaving a fairly good tail. You need to make 2 of these and set those aside. And then to your car body color, and go to your 6mm hook, and I'm using blanket yarn, so this goes fairly quickly. You make your slip knot and chain 8, and go back into the second chain from the hook and put a single crochet in each chain. So there's 7 single crochet. When you get to this end, you have 1 in there, and you're going to add 3 more, so there will be actually 4 stitches in the end of this chain. Now you have 10 stitches, and we're going to work down the other side of that chain when you get to the end. We're going to put 3 more stitches into that corner and keep moving. That is the end of your first round. Okay, the next row, we're just going to do a single crochet in each stitch all the way down the side. And the stitch count is not critical on this, because 1 or 2 stitches extra is not going to significantly change the size of your car. So on the second time that you get around to the end, you've got these 2 stitches right here. You're going to increase in each of those 2 stitches. Just like this. It's going to start to curl up, and then single crochet all the way down the side. When you get to the end, you're going to put 2 single crochet into each of those stitches, so the next 2 stitches will be increases, and crochet back around to the start. and you fold this in half, like this, you have a little bit of a bowl here, and it's your first chain, your second row, and your third row. And you can mark that if you want to be your first row. And now you need to do 14 more rows. So we're going to single crochet in each stitch all the way around until we have a total of 16 rows. When I have 16 rows, I'll meet you right back here. And after your 16 rounds, this is what it should look like. Kind of like almost a little mitten, like this. For the 17th and final row, we're going to single crochet down the side, till you get to these 3 stitches here on the corner, and then we're going to single crochet 3 together around that corner, and then continue to the other side. And it's like 8 or 9 stitches, and when you get to this corner, we're going to single crochet 3 together. And then we're going to slip stitch. As long as this is even right here, or pretty close to it, it's good. I'm going to slip stitch. And I'm kind of going to leave a long tail, and depending on what kind of car you want to make, you can use this tail to sew in some indentions here to kind of contour the car. I'm not going to do that with this one, but you would just weave this tail after you stuff it. You would weave this tail up in here to wherever you want it to contour the car to have a shape, something like that. You can take out the stitch marker if you used one. Now for the stuffing, you kind of want to keep the flat shape as much as possible, but you still want to stuff it because it still needs to have a car shape, but you don't really want it too rounded. But I want my back end a little bit bigger than my front end because I am making a sports car. And in my mind, that's kind of what a sports car needs to look like. You make yours however you like. But remember, in this situation, less is more. Kind of work that down so it's kind of a flat, like a car shape. And I like these a little bit softer because in my mind, they are for the younger boys, which is why I'm not using any hard safety eyes or anything on them. Now on the front of this, if you want a smashed flat front end like this, then you would just whip stitch it, where I'm going to curve mine some. So I'm going to take the outside loop of each stitch, and I'm going to loop it closed, not real tightly, because I kind of want it curled or curved around in a circle. This is the most sheddy yarn that I have ever used. Never seen anything shed quite that badly before. Okay, so there I've closed up the end. And if you want to contour it, you can just bring this up and down through here to smash that even flatter. And I'm just going to run this tail out through the bottom because I will tie something else off to it later, because I like all of my ends tied up. So here's what we look like. It looks like a very tiny pillow. We're going to go back to the white, or whichever color you have chosen to use for your windows. And we decide where we want the hood of our body to be, or hood of our car, and the trunk, or the boot, or whatever you call it, where you're from. And I'm thinking I want about this much space. So that's 5 rows. So I'm going to hook my crochet hook right into here. And I'm going to crochet with the posh yarn, which is my window color that I'm choosing. I'm going to single crochet all the way across where I want this window to be. And if you're counting, this is 8 rows up. I have 8 stitches across. I'm going to go right back down into that stitch and catch the one on the side. There's 4 rows. I'm going to go one more. And then I'm going to stick that right back down in there and pick up the next row. And it seems to be easier to catch them on the edges. Just picking up every stitch. Looks to be like I need to do one more stitch on this side. I'm going to go right down in this one and bring up the stitches going back this way. And it should be the 5 stitches, or however wide you made your first row. Just like this. You will have somewhat of a square or rectangle. And then I do 3 rows right on top of that single crochet that I just put in there. So I'll meet you back here when I get these 3 rows finished. Okay, when you get back to that corner, do a slip stitch and finish off. You do not need a long tail. Just kind of make sure that's still up in a square. Then I go back to my car color, and you could crochet this on too if you wanted to. it's just, I find it easier just sew it back on. But you can crochet it if you choose. Chain 8 and go right back down that chain. When I get down to the end, 7, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. However big you want this space. I want it to cover just a little bit oversized. So I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to turn and do this again, and so that I'll have 4 rows in this piece. In the last stitch, do a slip stitch, and I'm going to leave a long tail. I am going to sew this to the top, even though this is the worst sewing thread that I've ever used. Find my corner up here, hook that in the top corner, and then I'm going to make my bar down here by looping this corner, make the window edge, I'm going to loop that corner, take it right back up to the top. And that's where I'm going to begin my top stitches. Just right like this. Catch that top loop in each of these side stitches. The important thing is to make sure when you get to the corners that you meet up with the corners, corner for corner. When I get to this corner, I'm going to loop this stitch down here and catch that one just like I did on the other side. For the front. Sorry about that shredding yarn. If I'd have known it was going to do that, I wouldn't have used it for this tutorial. And then just hook the top pieces together. This stuff is just absolutely terrible. Okay, yarn review. Don't use loops and threads from Hobby Lobby. This is terrible to sew with. You get here to the corner. Meet up your corners. Incredibly bad to stitch with. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hook this corner in here and back up through here. I'm gonna stick that in there and tie it off and get me another piece of yarn to finish that last wall with, because wow, that's really bad. Okay, so now we've gotten all the way around, back again to the front, and I'm going to take a little bit of stuffing and stuff in that passenger seating area. And I don't want it too rounded, although the rounded does look cute, but not the look I'm going for. And try to pull off all my ridiculous little fuzzies. I'm just going to start down here with this other tail and come back up. And I'm going to continue and try to pull this just as straight as I can to keep it from shredding. Hide my tail in there. Wow, this stuff is really bad. It's very soft, has a great feel, but wow, it's really bad for shredding. So there we have the start of the car. Now we're going to take our headlights and that initial tail that we just started, where we first started that light, we're going to put this so we get this kind of in the area that we want it. Do the same thing to the other one in the general area that we want it. And then I'm going to bring these up and tie them together. Get rid of these tails. So then I'm going to take the other tail and I'm just going to kind of work around the edge to flatten those down. And not very many stitches, 5 or 6. Just making sure to keep that where I want it to be. So that there's no loose edges on it to peel up or get caught on things. I'm going to bring that tail up through the top. I'm going to sew the other headlight on just exactly the same way. There's your headlights are on. Now we're going to take our 2 wheels. We've got the initial startup tails, and we're going to put those on, and right in the center there. Come up through the middle. When you do this, it gives you a little bit of space to adjust your wheels after you've got them attached so that you can line them up after they're already in a pretty close position. So I'm going to pull that kind of tight. Up where I want the front tire here. Remember, I'm using the center tail. Then I'm going to take the other tail. Going to round up that little edge a little bit, and then I'm just going to stay stitch around the outside of this wheel. And I'm just catching the outer part of that tire onto the car. Come down here somewhere and pull that tail out. And then I usually work to the opposite side. Make sure I have this where I want it. I'm going to do the exact same thing to the back tires, and I'll meet you back here when I get done with that. One thing I do as well when I'm working on the back tires, then I slide this over and make my door handle. And I just loop that through a couple times to make my door handle. Sprucing this up is as much or as little as you want. I'm going to use some red. I'm going to embroider a couple of tail lights on the back of here. Not anything real major. Just run it through there a couple times. Just trying to make it look the same on both sides, or as close to it as possible. Front of this, you can add more detail. And of course you can add eyes. Your headlights could be eyes. You can add them up here. I think I'm going to add them up here. I like the eyes on them. So go over here and add a rear view mirror, or add a side mirror. I think this is one of the easiest plushies that I have ever seen. It's all soft parts, no hard spots for little eyes. And there's your sports car collection.